We are all connected, and we all share the same light. Home is the collective, unconditional. Only love could be so simple.
Hello, welcome to Love Notes Podcast. I'm Venus, your host, and your co-host is behind the scenes, Bree Campano. Thank you for being here with us. And we are joined by Chris Nettles, Fort Worth City Council member, who is up for re-election, which is happening right now, right?
Yes.
Early voting?
Early voting started last Tuesday, and it's happening today from 7 to 7. And then tomorrow is the last day for early voting.
Okay. And so we're going to just talk with City Councilman Nettles for a little bit and just get so that you can get to know him and know his stance and what he's bringing to the city of Fort Worth. And so I would like to start with a leading question. I like to open up with just an engagement question. And for you, I think that question would be, what does community mean to you?
Community is basically bringing residents and families, neighborhoods together for one purpose and one goal, to support each other. We may not all agree on the same thing, but we agree that number one, we want a safe environment. We want our children to have a great school to go to, and we want amenities across the board. And so when you say community, you bring unlike-minded people together for the same purpose and the same goal, which is life, community, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So that's what community means to me. Working with everybody across the board, our police department, fire department, civil services, and city services, and families.
Nice, very good, and I agree. It's just about uniting those that have may have commonalities,
right,
but also uncommon things,
yeah,
and just bringing people together. So what inspired you to run for city council in the first place?
So I'll tell you, back in 2016, when we had the unfortunate situation with the Jacqueline Craig, when a police officer threw her down to the ground with her two daughters, I was sitting on my couch watching it on TV, and people was like, "What are we going to do about this?" And so some community people got together, and they had a meeting at a church in Southwest Fort Worth, and the then mayor basically said, "I didn't come to hear a bunch of people complain about what happened." And so it just did something in my spirit. And I said, you know what? We need to find somebody to run for mayor. And so people said, oh, no, you can't run against Betsy Price. She's she's Fort Worth. And I said, why can't we? And so I decided to run for mayor in 2017. Because I said, instead of just sitting about complaining about the situation, get involved in the situation. And so that's what I did. I inserted myself in it, got 30% of the vote, about 10,000 votes, with no name, no money. Basically just stayed and said, we need to change it forward. And that's how I got into politics. And so then in 2019 and 21, I ran for office and I won in 21 for city council.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's a great start. It just takes somebody just to get up and do it.
Yeah, I mean.
Try to be the solution.
Mayor Betsy Price had won in 2010 and nobody challenged her.
Right.
For 6 years.
For a long time.
For a long time.
Yes.
And if you're going to get, just like now in this race, I have two challenges. And what that does is it makes you rethink things and say, okay, hey, I could do this, I could do that. They have a good idea, let's bring it to the table and make it all work. And so I think challenge is good. It keeps you humble.
Yeah.
And it brings new ideas for the community.
Okay, well, you saying that you have a couple of challengers. We do know that you have a couple. What experiences and skills do you bring to the table that makes you a better competitor?
Well, I will tell you, before I got in office, I was a community leader. I worked at the courthouse helping young boys get their occupational license so they can drive and go to work. I was feeding children from the tons of 1,500 kids a day in the neighborhoods and outreach. And then I was activist for during the George Floyd murder, Tatiana Jefferson's murder, Jacqueline Craig's issue. And so I like to say I was in the community. People knew my name, and not for a political reason, but to support what was going on. What also makes me credible to run today is I have the experience. I have worked with city staff. I work with my colleagues, and I explained a couple of weeks ago that I haven't lost a case on council since I've been elected.
Wow.
And that means that I have, anytime you vote for anything, you need 6 votes, including myself. And so that doesn't always happen. But that means that I've been able to have relationships with my counterpartners to say, hey, my community needs this and I need y'all to vote for it. Yes. And so I bring experience, I bring trust and transparency. You look at me, you see what you get. Somebody told me the other day, they said, you're predictable. And it's like, we know when Chris, you're going to show up and these are the things you're going to stand for. You're going to stand for accountability. You're going to stand for making sure everybody have a piece of the pie. The city of Fort Worth had employees that was making $14 an hour. $14 an hour. The city of Fort Worth, the 11th largest city in the United States of America. We moved that up to $18 because I think everybody should have an opportunity to work, live, and play.
That's amazing. Those are some great credentials.
Yeah.
And speaking of things that you've done in the past, if I remember correctly, at church on Sunday, someone spoke about you providing more jobs than any of your predecessors here in the city of in Stop 6.
Yeah. So when I got elected in 21, development was actually just stopped in the city of Fort Worth. Well, in District 8. Okay. And they didn't want to have development because they were saying gentrification and all this kind of things. And I said, you can actually have development and not gentrify the neighborhood. Mm-hmm. And so since I've been in office, I brought over 1,500 new jobs to District 8. So these jobs actually sit inside the confines of the city limits in the neighborhoods of District 8. And they average salary is $60,000 a year. And so some of those jobs have went to 20 and Campus Drive. So from 20 to Everett Parkway, there's an influx of warehouse buildings, just like they did in North Fort Worth.
Yes.
You got Dick's Sporting Goods that they're building right now. You got Green Bay Packaging. You have Home Foods. You have the one I just did recently. I can't think of the other one. But that didn't happen until I came into office. Mm-hmm. And so people who don't have transportation, the buses don't go all the way to North Fort Worth off the lines. And so my goal was to bring the jobs local so that everybody have an opportunity to work.
That's wonderful. That is wonderful, which leads me to my next question. What's more important to you now, building new homes in commercial space or rehabbing and expanding better spaces utilizing our existing homes and storefronts?
I actually think you need both. You need a combination. So one of the things that we lack, District 8, specifically 76104, right here where we are, in Morningside and Southside, has the lowest life expectancy. And so people who would live on the west side, they'll live to 70, 81 years old. Here in this location, the average was 67. And so what that means is that they didn't have amenities for like grocery, food, doctor's offices, pharmacies, just the necessities that you need to live. And so in order to bring those amenities to the district, number one, you got to have rooftops. So we need to bring more rooftops to District 8 in this southern sector. So that means apartment complex, that means influx housing. So if you look down these streets, you have some lots that are just empty, that has been torn down or burned down.
Correct.
So you bring in developers to come and build those homes up so people can move in there.
Yeah.
Then you have, as you talked about, some boarded up businesses. I mean, just right across the street, you have, we're in a building that used to be the historical Dr. Brooks office that people used to come and get taken care of. And so it's the goal of the person who owns it, who's trying to purchase it, is to make it a space. You have a barbershop in here right now. We actually have our headquarters here. And so to rent out different rooms for such as even a podcast. Yeah. And so it's taking things that does not exist anymore and bringing life back to it. So you need that, and then you need the jobs. So you need people to live in a district, because if they live in a district, they're going to spend their money in the district. Correct. So we need to bring a bowling alley. We need to bring a skating rink. We need to bring an urban area, a jumping park, and restaurants, so that you don't necessarily have to leave from where you are.
I think that's our biggest thing, is having to leave to go outside of our community for those extracurricular activities, the things that we spend money on. We need to also bring that money back to our community. Right. So speaking of those things, what is something that you would change about our zoning?
So zoning is real important, and I like to have zoning kept in the hands of our community and the council member that represents. Because right now, anyone wants to zone anything in the city of Fort Worth in District 8, and they come to me, I said, you have to go to the neighborhood association. Go to the neighborhood, show them your plan.
Is she still there?
Okay. And then come talk to me. Because I don't want to move without the community support.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, I do live in District 8, but I don't live everywhere in District 8.
Right.
I live in one location.
Yeah.
And so it's not fair for me to make a decision for somebody else's neighborhood or street, and I haven't talked to them first about it. So zoning needs to stay within the confines of the community. I will tell people, you elect me to represent you because you trust me, that I'm not going to invade your privacy or your space. Then I actually appoint people that live in the district to serve on the zoning commission. And so I have a zoning representative. And when I tell people, I say, listen to the community.
Yeah.
And make your conscious decision.
Yes, and that kind of falls into line of one of my other questions, which are, what are some of the ways that you plan to involve the residents in the decision-making process? So zoning is one of them. What are other things that residents can get involved?
So we have the Parks Board, we have the Planning Board, and what the Planning Board basically looks at the city of Fort Worth for over 10 years, and say, like this building right here, okay, 10 years, does this still need to be a doctor's office, or should this be a restaurant, or should this be homes? You know, what kind of street is on? What is Evans?
Yes.
Is Evans going to be a bridge to downtown Fort Worth? And so Rosedale and Evans, we have the National Juneteenth Museum that's coming. Okay. And then we have the Royal Capitol that's going to build a mixed use, apartments on the top and businesses on the bottom. Okay. So like barbershops, coffee shops, yeah, whatever it may be. And so what does it look like 10 years from now? That's what the Planning Commission does. Okay. Also, we have community partners where people who, so half cent of your property taxes goes to CCPD. And that CCPD funding we use to fund different organizations like after-school programs, gun violence prevention programs, food outreaches, to make sure that people have the necessary needs they need in the city of Fort Worth. So we sit on that board, and so like if you have a nonprofit, you can apply to receive funding. Well, the community action person who sits there will review your application with the other people on the board. Okay. And so it's not necessarily people in high places, yeah, but it's community, it's people from the community deciding on what we need for the city of Fort Worth.
That's great. That's a great process.
Yes.
And it's good to know that process so that more community members can get involved with it. I got a couple more questions. One is, if elected, what steps would you take to put our city on a firmer financial footing?
So I would tell people the city of Fort Worth is really in a great position financially. Every year we have a surplus from the sums of $10 to $20 million, 5 to 10. And so what we do at the end of that, and that's kind of a big thing for me. I love having a surplus, but are we actually missing some things that we should actually do for the city of Fort Worth? One of the biggest things is homelessness. We won't dive too much on that, but making sure that we keep the taxes low, mm-hmm, and that we're funding the right things for the city of Fort Worth. And that's how we stay financially stable. Yeah. And so there's a big conversation that's happening right now. What are we going to fund in this next budget cycle? Right now, we give the Arts Commission $10 million. We give, there was a resolution that went across that to give a museum $6 million. Okay. And nothing's wrong with that. But the average people live in the city of Fort Worth, will they visit that museum? Could that $6 million be actually used somewhere else that affects the city as a whole? Yes. Nothing against museums. Right. I just talked about a museum coming to District 8. But we got to have a real conversation about where these dollars are going to go. We have a $2.4 million budget. And our revenue did not come in as high as we thought it was going to come in this year. just because of the inflation, what's happening in Washington, coming down to the city for work, taxes were down.
Yeah.
And so we got to have a real conversation of how we keep those taxes low.
Okay. Well, if you were given a grant for $1 million, even $2 million, to use for the city in any way that you wanted, what would you do with it?
Two ways. One, help on our homeless issue. Our homeless population is actually decreasing in the city of Fort Worth, but they're, and I don't want to be careful with the word I want to use, they're moving into our communities and without a roof over their head.
Okay.
And so we have to figure out a way to migrate them back to the shelters, to resources and services. People fall on hard times. All of us may be a paycheck away from being in the situation they're in. And so we don't want to damn them, but we also want to say, you need to go through the process. And you can't infringe on neighbors and communities and setting fires and doing all this kind of things. The other thing is our streets and roads. Our infrastructure is not the best in the city of Fort Worth. But roads cost a lot of money to fix. And we need to put money towards that. And so one of the things that we're going to talk about in our budget is how much money we're going to put in our PAYGO system. That's what's actually fixing our roads.
Okay. That'll be great because those potholes and stuff do need to be.
Yes, that's how you call it.
2 tires.
Yeah, that's
in
how you
one
call
day.
it. Yeah.
In
one day.
one day on those roads. And I am a big, firm advocate for the homeless.
Yeah.
Especially our veterans.
Yeah.
I don't believe that we should have, but homeless veterans. So I think that is important to be able to put funding in providing some kind of shelter or accommodating needs for those dwellers. I appreciate your time, first and foremost. I want to give you a moment to say anything that we haven't touched on that you would like the people to know about Chris Nettles, about your what you stand on in this election and what that means to you.
Yeah, I'll tell you that local elections are the most important elections that you can vote in.
Absolutely.
The presidential election governs the United States of America, but your local city council reps actually tells where the money goes for the city of Fort Worth. When COVID hit, they transferred the money to the state level sent it to the cities, and the city dispersed it to the communities.
Correct.
And so if you want to know where your tax dollars are going each and every day, your streets, your roads, your potholes, your services, your city, who's going to pick up your trash, that's your city council person. And you want to make sure you have the person in that seat that you can trust, that's level-headed, that is in the community and is not afraid to come and have a conversation with you. I believe I have shown to be faithful to this community, and I'm asking for an opportunity to continue to serve for the next 2 years to support you. Since I've been elected, we brought $418 million worth of investments to this district, 1,500 new jobs. We have increased the minimum wage to $18 an hour. We have lowered your taxes for the last 3 years and increased the homestead exemptions to make sure that our seniors are not put out your homes. So for me, I am your advocate. I'm your voice on council. And I look forward to having these conversations. And we can do this more often, not just during election cycle, because the bond election is getting ready to come up in 26. And the bond election is going to be vitally important to our parks, our roads, and some other things, our community facilities, such as our community centers. And then our budget happens in October. And so we have a lot of things that's happening. Get involved, stay engaged, know who's your representative, and make sure you vote.
Absolutely. You heard it here from Chris Nettles. And I also just want to let you guys know he's also the pastor of Purpose Driven Ministries. On Sundays, I will also drop a link to where you can join his service. He's a great speaker, as you can see, but he's also an even better minister for the Word of God. The last thing I want to ask you, one question to close. You told us in the beginning what community means.
Yeah.
What does this community in particular mean to you?
So this is the historic community of Southside. I was born and raised here in Morningside. I went to Morningside Elementary School. My brother and sister went to Morningside Middle School. My sister graduated from Trumbull Tech. This community, my grandparents still actually live in. They bought their house over 62 years ago. And so this is a community of rich history. The first millionaire, William Gooseneck McDonald, live just a few streets over from where we are today. This community reminds us of our history, of our Black history. Evans Avenue used to be the Black Wall Street. And so we cannot allow West Fort Worth, North Fort Worth to supersede our history. And with so much history trying to be destroyed and taken out of books and school books, we need to remember and let people know that right here on the south side of Fort Worth is where Fort Worth really began. It's who Fort Worth is. And so this means a lot to me. And we want to make sure we keep it and preserve it.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you, Chris, for
Thank
being
you.
here. I appreciate your time. And we will see you again. We also will tap in again when the bond conversation happens.
Yep.
And again in October when the budget conversation
Perfect.
happens. Thank you guys for joining us on Love Notes Podcast. We will see you next time.
Thank you.
Home is the collective, unconditional.